what is considered to be one of the healthiest breakfasts that you could eat just so happens to be one music of the most dangerous breakfast that you can eat. Now, I'm not going to get into the most obvious things that you can eat that you know are bad for you, but there's one breakfast food that people consider healthy that they keep eating that they don't realize it's not very healthy, and it is this right here. Whole grain cereal. But I'm also going to show you the absolute healthiest breakfast you can consume that will greatly improve your health within a week. Okay, here's an example of a whole grain cereal. And the question is, what's healthy about this? Well, the first thing they say is that whole grains, especially the whole grain oats, apparently have something that helps lower your cholesterol. It's called beta-glucans. According to the literature, you'd have to consume 3 grams to lower your cholesterol 5 to 10 points, a very tiny amount. Now, would that be one serving of this? The answer is no. You'd have to consume 4.5 servings of this to get the amount of beta-glucans to lower your cholesterol. And also, you're assuming that lowering your cholesterol is going to help reduce your risk of heart attacks, which is not true because over half the people who get heart attacks actually have low cholesterol. But when you raise the amount of this beyond the one serving, because this is a grain, aka a starch, okay, aka starch is sugar. What's going to happen is you're going to increase the amount of sugar, which is then going to create even more cholesterol. So in reality, when you eat these whole grains, you're getting a lot more sugar than you think. It's just not listed on the label as sugar. It's listed as carbohydrates. But realize a starch is a string of glucose molecules. And what they do is they take the grain and they grind it into flour and they process it. And in the processing, they make these bonds between the glucose very weak. So when it goes into your body, it breaks down into sugar really quick. And the interesting thing about the ingredients here is whole grain oats, cornstarch is the second ingredient, and then the third ingredient, they actually do add sugar in there. So we got sugar and then salt and then synthetic vitamins. Let's shift gears to whole wheat cereals. Now the first thing you need to know about wheat, it's called modern wheat. It's been modernized. What does that mean? That means in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, what they did is they created a mutation in wheat. It's called mutagenesis. They do that with gamma rays and X-rays and a chemical called sodium azide. And this modern wheat has created more health problems. I think part of the problem has been camouflaged as being healthy. And so if we think it's healthy, we're going to eat more of it. It's even been endorsed by the American Heart Association. Whole grain has something very unique that refined grain doesn't have, and that is phytic acid. What you have to realize is the phytic acid is going to decrease the absorption of that. So instead of getting, let's say, 50% of that, you're getting maybe 2 or 3% because phytic acid blocks iron, calcium, magnesium, zinc. Most of the so-called nutrition, the vitamins or minerals in these cereals, are added to get you to think that, ooh, wow, I'm getting some nutrition. Well, that's because you sprayed synthetic vitamins in there. If you didn't put those in there, it would be pretty empty. The next thing I want to talk about is an inflammatory protein. And especially if you're doing on a regular basis, you're creating this constant inflammation in your gut, and eventually you're going to feel like pain in your gut or bloating. All right? And number 3 is another inflammatory chemical. This is basically a wheat germ. It's part of the grain, and that can go into the intestines and create inflammation. I have a free download that I want to give to you. This free download is my daily routine in a checklist. This is a routine that I use every day to feel like I'm 18 years old, even though I'm 60 years old, and I want to give it to you for free. And so there's a little link down below. Click it and definitely download that. And number 4 is gluten. Gliadins is another name for that. And that protein has been studied and found to even trigger autoimmune diseases in animals. I wonder how many people have developed an autoimmune disease from consuming this, but you can't prove it because there's not a lot of studies on humans in relationship to this. So when we consume whole grains, we're setting the body up for a gut inflammation problem. I want to go to number 5 right here. It's going to create a higher blood sugar spike than actual sugar. And on top of that, there's special starches, amylopectin, for example, that's branched in a way to allow your enzymes to go in there and break it down even faster. So it creates this remarkable spike of blood sugar. So This is why when you consume that cereal about an hour and a half later, you're hungry. Are you actually hungry? No, your blood sugar is so low that you're going to feel hungry. So as you consume the cereal, turns into sugar, spikes the blood sugar, then insulin comes down and pushes it down. So now we have the roller coaster ride. By the end of the day, because you ate this refined carbohydrate in the morning, you are going to crave something sweet in the evening, okay? So you'll end up snacking after dinner, which then will cause you to be really hungry the next morning. Anytime people are hungry in the morning, that means they usually snack the day before in the evening, or the day before they had some type of refined carbohydrate or starch or sugar. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high-quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information. Now, I've already talked about raising the blood sugar, but look at number 6. A lot of people get bloating when they consume grains, and that is from a different type of carbohydrate called fructans. Fructans create this excess fermentation, this bloating, this gas, because the microbes will eat that very fast, and you will feel bloated after you consume it. Now, this is a side note, but number 7, acrylamide. And it's a byproduct of when you caramelize or brown or cook some of these carbohydrates and these proteins, and it's listed as being a carcinogen, okay? Something that can trigger cancer. Now, I've already talked about the synthetic vitamin spray down there. So a lot of people who are consuming the synthetic vitamins don't end up getting the actual vitamins. They create deficiencies. That's a whole other video. Okay, so what is the best breakfast? You ready for this? No breakfast. Here you are. You eat the night before. If you don't have any snacks, you go to bed and you sleep through the night, and now we have about 12 hours of fasting. Okay? And then you're going to break the fast with some type of breakfast. Now, if we just take a look at, is a person really hungry in the morning or not? Or are they just trained to eat something because it's a social thing, or we've been told that we need to consume it, whatever? The point is, what allowed us to go from the night before all the way to breakfast is our body is running on fat fuel. It's burning more ketones. So this is normal. It's natural. This is how we were designed. But now in modern times, we don't go very long without eating. And so the rule of thumb is don't eat if you're not hungry, and then eat when you're hungry. The only reason you'd be hungry in the morning is the night before you snacked, or you had some whole grain cereal, or some sugar, or some refined carbohydrates the day before. I will guarantee if you start reducing your sugar and starch, you will not be hungry in the morning. Why? Because your body's going to convert over into running on ketones. Ketones are an amazing fuel that makes your brain feel good, and there's no appetite. There are no cravings. But I would not recommend to have any breakfast. What's going to happen then is you're going to fast for a longer, all the way up until lunchtime, and you'll have between 16 and 18 hours of no eating. Now, right there, let me explain something. There are more positive health-creating benefits when you don't eat than when you try to nourish the body. There are amazing things that happen when you fast that long. Number 1, your body goes through a self-cleaning machine that's called autophagy. So all this like old damaged protein gets recycled into new cells. You get to also run on ketones, which are very therapeutic, especially for the brain. Your mood will start increasing. But the minute you start eating, especially the refined carbohydrates, you start jacking up insulin all through the day, especially if you do whole grains, because you're going to need snacks. Now, that being said, I do want to say that this is not how I started, okay? I was living on this for the majority of my life, and did I go to no breakfast? No. What I did was kind of a transition, because I didn't really know about how powerful fasting was. The way I did it is I consumed a protein breakfast, because just doing that would be a massive spike in your health by having protein, replacing your biochemistry, all the enzymes, all the different chemicals in the body that it needs, the tendons, the cartilage, the ligaments, the muscles, all that needs to be regenerated. And if you're coming off of a fast for 12 hours and you consume just protein without the other carbohydrates or starches, what's going to happen is you're going to get muscle stimulus. So that's one other benefit of having a protein breakfast. But the minute you start adding other things with the protein like bread, that's where you get into trouble. You don't want to give your children cereal. You want to give them eggs, cheese, yogurt, bacon. You will find that your children respond way better mood-wise, behavior-wise. If you give them the cereal, what's going to happen? you're going to get blood sugar issues, and you're going to find they're going to be very, very moody because they're going to end up with low blood sugar, and then you're going to deal with that. So those are the two options. And I created a very detailed video on how to transition to intermittent fasting, which I just kind of introduced you to right here. Check it out.